Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Operator Radio. For the people that are listening, there was a lovely set from Samira, lovely electro. And for this show, it's actually the first time that I'm doing this show. I'm going to introduce it by the name Criollo. And for this show, I'm going to collectively explore, remix, and redefine multicultural identities. Criollo has many meanings, and I manipulated the word, or I redefined it, but it has its origins in the concept of creolization. And this can be defined as the process by which elements of different cultures are blended together to create a new culture. And yeah, in this show we're going to explore what this means to us in the context of Bonaire and Curaçao. And for this show I therefore have invited dear friend, anthropologist, and storyteller and ethnographic filmmaker lecyca, curiel.
The last one is, I think, a bit more aspiring ethnographic filmmaker.
I love that. Lecyca will join me for a 2-hour exploration into Afro-Caribbean navigations within Dutch contexts, but also within the context of the ABC SSS Islands. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much that you want to be here for this first episode. I'm super excited and also a bit, just positively excited to talk on the radio with you, especially since we've had a super interesting and nice experience of traveling together to Curaçao. Do you actually remember the first time we've met each other, we've seen each other?
I think it was in class. We were both studying anthropology. I don't remember. I think it was theory and history of anthropology, right? It was like a basic course, very dense literature, and also very. Yeah, we went really in depth into the general curriculum, and I think we were sitting next to each other, and at some point we started talking. And then we met each other at the screening of...
the screening!
Yeah.
Of the documentary from the course Visual Anthropology, the master degree.
The master, at that screening, we saw each other there.
That was the first time. Yeah. Such a long time ago.
So film and anthropology are our intersecting interests that bring us together.
Yeah. And I believe our cultural heritage as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what is your background actually? We both studied cultural anthropology, and I also introduced that you are ethnographic filmmaker. You like that definition you said, or?
Yeah, I don't want to call myself a documentary filmmaker because I didn't study film, but I took some classes in ethnographic filmmaking, and I'm aspiring to become an more experienced ethnographic filmmaker. But what is my background in the sense of academics?
I think that maybe we can start with the academic background, but I'm also interested to hear more about your ethnographic filmmaking experiences.
Academic background, so I started studying, then I quit very soon afterwards. I started studying liberal arts and sciences, and then I kind of realized that academic spaces are not really my spaces. So I just worked and did several different projects as a speaker and social organizing. And then I decided to study again and study anthropology. And that was basically, for me, anthropology, has always been a very personal decision to study this field. this is my academic background, but it touches upon my roots as well, because I chose to study anthropology because I was always interested in my roots. Where are my parents from? I was born and raised in the Netherlands, in Groningen, but my father was born on the island of Curaçao, and my mother was born on the island of Sulawesi in Indonesia. And if you look at those two countries, well, the one thing they have in common, because they are both on opposite sides of the world, but the one thing they have in common is they were both colonized by the Netherlands, which is the country in which I grew up in. So I was always confronted with this I am from here, but I'm not from here question. And navigating that, I went through several different phases. And at some point, I realized that what has been used to colonize these countries and to subjugate those people is partly anthropology as a field. It has a very colonial origin. So anthropology was kind of used to learn more about these people that we wanted to, or that we, look at me identifying with the Netherlands, that the Netherlands wanted to colonize and oppress we know the story of that. So that's why anthropology has evolved over the past decades. It has evolved. It has become more reflexive. Positionality has become very important. All the research are really looking at, who am I in this bigger picture, in this wider context? And I met some people who are anthropologists. One amazing person that of the top of my mind is Mitchell Essayas. Mm-hmm. He is the founder of the Black Archives, and he is an anthropologist, and he was one of the first people who spoke to me about anthropology, and I always thought he is a very inspiring person. So then I met some other people who also had this, they had this thing that I was curious about. And then I figured maybe it's because of this anthropology thing that keeps on coming up, because I didn't know what it was at all. And then so after 4 years, after I quit my studies, I decided to go back into academia and do a bachelor's in anthropology, and that's where we met.
Yay.
And that was also, my bachelor's was also a very ego-centered, auto-ethnographic journey, focusing a lot on the regions that my parents are from, and the stories that my family carries.
Yeah, because not that long ago, you shared a very beautiful film about your grandmother, and if I name it right, it was about Arisan.
Yeah, that's true.
It was such a beautiful film, as it really showed how beautiful, how much community actually can mean in some kinds of cultures, especially also in our culture. But this is another kind of culture, like not the shared identity we have from our Afro-Caribbean heritage, but your Indonesian heritage, where your grandmother is from. Could you explain a bit more about the idea you had before you were making this film? How did you, what appealed you into exploring this further with your grandmother?
Yeah, thank you for the compliment, and also for giving me the space to speak about this, because it's a project that I'm very, that is very dear to my heart. It started basically as a child. I remember so every afternoon after school, I went to my grandparents' house. So they took up a big part of childcare. And I always remember there were certain moments that twice a year, there were a lot of people in the house. And one time was my grandmother's birthday, 3 times a year. Second time was my grandfather's birthday. And then there was this other time in which it seemed like a birthday, but I didn't know whose birthday it was. And why it seemed like a birthday to me was because the table was full with, well, you know, Indonesische rijsttafel, right? Like many different dishes, traditional dishes. All the aunties and uncles were there. The aunties were singing and helping out in the aunties were helping out in the kitchen. The uncles were talking and jamming, and the aunties were sometimes singing. And it was this warm environment. So that's those times when the house was filled, I kind of didn't understand why the house was filled. And there was always this envelope with money on the table, or a lot of money, like paper money on the table. And I think I started to become consciously interested in this gathering when I started studying anthropology. Because someone told me about this Caribbean tradition of Sam.
Sam.
Yeah, Hunga Menturi Sam. And Sam is a kind of a microfinancing structure, ritual that happens in the Caribbean. So that was something I recognized from my grandmother. And then I started asking more questions. And Arisan is kind of this tradition of women in Indonesian diasporic communities who come together and save money collectively. So they come together monthly, every month in the house of a different person, and then all the women come together, bring in their part of the money, and the person who receives the money takes care of the meal and welcomes the other people. And this is something that we see in many different diasporic cultures. We're taken well care of here.
Got some nice tea
so
here.
Nice. I have my own.
You have your own, right? Okay, cool.
Yeah, enjoy.
Thanks.
So yeah, this is something that in many diasporic communities, mostly women, partake in. And I thought it was such a beautiful way of taking care of each other. And I wanted to organize my own arisan as well. So that's how it started. I was asking my friends, like, hey, do you want to join doing this? Let's just start, you know. And we did several attempts, but in our lives somehow nowadays we are just living. Our pace of living is just so fast. We are all living in different cities. The friends who were interested in joining, so it didn't happen yet. But then I wanted to do something else with it, and I was having a lot of conversations with my grandmother about it, and she was kind of explaining all the rules to me and what it meant for her, and how she sees it now, and what she thinks is of value to my generation as well, of this tradition. And then I wanted to document that, and I had to make a film for one of my visual anthropology courses, and this short film of 6 minutes is the result of that. And I think it was really a collaborative project with my grandmother and her friends, who were really happy to speak about this tradition because it has given them so much. It's not only the financial aspect of it, but it's also the sense of community, of coming together every month, but also coming together when on birthdays, but also when someone needs help. It's really a support network that revolves around this monthly, what is verplichting again?
Allowance? No.
This monthly agreement. It's not a verplichting. It's an agreement that they have and that they really, really honor. But it brings so much more than just money and saving money or creating credit. And I think there are many lessons to draw from that for us as well, being the next generation of diasporic people.
Yeah, I think it's first of all a very particular experience thing that brings people together and take care of each other. That for me wasn't really I wasn't aware that these kinds of things were happening. Like already in the context of the Netherlands, I feel at moments so distant from certain cultural practices. And I think it's interesting. The interesting thing that I really like about how you interpret it is that from your perspective, you make a movie out of it. It's something that you sort of document and make it something like that other people can interact and see with and identify with. And it also shows the beauty of how this sort of caters towards creating a sense of community, not only for your grandmother and her friends, but also for other people, diasporic people from these communities. And I think it's super interesting that especially our generation can learn from that as well, especially people with multicultural identities who grew up in the Netherlands, like we did, because that's also something that I want to talk about with you in this show, is how our multicultural identities are influencing each other and are making us the sort of the people who have to pass this culture on. Like we're the younger generation, I think it's really beautiful that you do it in this way. That you make it an tangible visual experience that people can interact, and it makes room and space to talk about something that can be quite hidden for most people, also in that culture. So I was also curious because you have not only roots in Indonesia, but also your father is from Curaçao. And you've also been artistically exploring in that context. You, for instance, assisted for the documentary Ga terug en haal het. I was wondering if how you look upon this project in relation to the project you worked on your own, and how do you see maybe parallels between two, because they're both very much identities who make you who you are, but so much different from each other. So I'm curious to hear more about your experiences from working on that documentary.
That's interesting. I didn't see those two stories in relation to each other yet. But now that you're saying this, it makes a lot of sense, because Ga terug en haal het is a film by Clarice Gargar, and it's a documentary based on the Sankofa philosophy, which is a philosophy from Ghana that kind of states that everything is connected. So it's like go back and fetch it, and the past and the present and the future are all connected. Like time is not linear, time is cyclical, time is always interwoven and connected with each other. That is the philosophy that documentary departs from. And I think maybe I've been inspired by that unconsciously, but that is also what I've tried to honor in Arisan, which is because Arisan starts with this is for them who were in the past, and this is for those who were and those who will be. So it's really for the people in the past who did the work to preserve this tradition, and the people who can benefit from it, who will carry it forward in the future. So it's like this interaction between the past, the present, and the future. I think that is something that is part of the philosophy in many different cultures. I remember now as well, my father used to be a community organizer in Groningen for people from the ABC Islands there who were studying there. And his community was called Bringamosa. And they were organizing events based on the philosophy Conocebo pasado, escogebo futuro. So know your past and choose your future.
Wow.
Only if you know your past, you can choose your future, where you want to go. So this idea of going back to go forward, that is really something, well, if we speak about Afrofuturism, because that's one of your big inspirations, I think for me, the going back part is what I identify with a lot, because I love to live in the past. I love to be in archives. I love to read books about the past. I also like to be in the present and the future, but the past is a very comfortable space for me where I draw much inspiration from. But yeah, Afrofuturism, I think, it might also touch upon that.
Yeah.
Because that is one of your inspirations, right?
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I think Afrofuturism is also the reason why I started this show in the first place, like the last year, the Rhythmic Vision show. And in this show, I explored the connection I felt with certain elements in electronic music and how I can sort of re-narrate this into a new world, an envisioned place. And I really like this idea. Indeed, as you said, like getting inspired and exploring things in the past and see how you can sort of, explore that and redefine it also by means of your own identity and your own experiences, and how you can change the narrative also, but also be aware and respect the previous narratives. We talked about this as well in other conversations.
Depending on which ones, though.
Yeah.
Many of the previous narratives
yes, that's true. Yeah, I think you have to be very careful with that. But especially when we talk about the narratives of the colonial past, the histories that are being told, written down, the voices which could or not be heard. Many things are unhidden. So therefore, we have to be very careful with the things which are present to understand how we sort of interact with that, but how we look upon this information and these types of discourse. But after that awareness is there, you can definitely reinterpret that from the perspective of the present to think about the future. And that's how I try to implement these kind of rhythms that reminded me of tambour, for instance, the instruments that were being played in there, percussive elements. I also really like the concept of jazz music, where the focus laid on the element of play. Where dissonance was actually more valued than the harmony, which was very much present in music at that time. Jazz arose, and how also the play can be a way to take back, freedom in a way. And I think that's also very interesting how music practices from the ABC SSS Islands, where most of the times originated from practices of expressing sentiment in times of oppression. I really like the concept of playing and mixing, creating new things, play with that and explore that in the future and envision how that can be different from how it was in the past.
Yeah.
So that's something that really inspires me, and I really like that what you said in Papiamento again, what your dad said.
Conocebo passado, escogebo futuro.
Yeah, that's I have never really heard that before, but it sounds really, it really touches me, because also what we're doing right now, like, we still have to discuss many things, but I think we're gonna go back to the past to talk about things.
Yeah. Maybe we can play a song.
Yeah.
No?
Sounds good. Yeah.
Also, the song that we just played.
Yeah.
It's from this record. Antologia di Música di CU di Curaçao. And so when I was on the island 2 years ago, I spent quite some time there, and I was really interested in the music. And well, I was interested in everything culture, but music was part of it. So I asked my family, do you still have records? They threw away everything. And then I posted something in a Facebook group like Durf de Vraag Curaçao. Are there people who still have records? And I went to people's places and they told me about all the records they had. And this one person had this CU record. And CU is the harvest celebration on the island. Which was 2 weeks ago, a bit more than 2 weeks ago, on the 1st of April. During the celebration, it is believed that we honor and celebrate the spirits that help getting a good harvest. So what we just heard were different instruments used in Seo music. So the bari, the kachu, and this is a record by Grupo Raiz and Grupo Trinchera, which is also it's really made to archive these cultural aspects and these instruments that have a very, very layered history. What shall we play?
I think we can start. I also brought a track from Vernon Schatlane, which we can play. He's a very inspiring artist from Curaçao as well, and I think he also went to, if I say it right, Cuba to work there for a while to work on his music. And as we talked about as well earlier, is that he works with samples as well from archives in Curaçao, like samples which we've heard just now at the beginning as well, but he also performs live. He is a master in playing tambour, and we also got tambour class from him in Amsterdam, which was really nice. We got to learn about the history of the tambour, the instrument, the bari, which we heard at the beginning of the show, the drum. And tambour consists of two instruments. It's the bari, the tambour, and the chapi. It's like, it used to be like a shuffle, the part of the shuffle. So people who were enslaved would use these shuffles to make the sort of the higher noise with. It could be identified as I think a xylophone. It sounds like a xylophone. I have a track from him. And this is a track that is from his album called Jazz. And enjoy. Yes. Wat vond je ervan?
Ja, ik kende dit album dus niet van Vernon Chatelain. Ik ben echt een Vernon fangirl. Ik ga echt naar al zijn shows. Ja. Maar die zijn dan vooral van het laatste album. En volgens mij is dat Kimina. Maar dat is volgens mij een 3-luik. En wat Vernon dus in zijn nieuwere werk doet, is inderdaad samples, wat je net al zei, samples gebruiken van het archief, wat 2 hele belangrijke mensen voor de Curaçaose geschiedenis, Pater Brenneker en Alice Juliana, hebben gemaakt. Pater Brenneker, sorry, I'm speaking Dutch.
Oh yeah, Dutch. Yeah. Sorry. Speaking
I'm
Dutch.
so sorry. Okay.
Rewind.
Wow. But we were speaking in Dutch and that's why. Okay, so
I asked,
what do I think of this record, of this track? I was surprised because as I said, I'm a Vernon fangirl, so I've listened to a lot of his newer music, and in his newer music he uses a lot of audio fragments that are from this big archive that was created by 2 very important archivists or cultural heritage preservers, Pater Brenneker and Alice Juliana. And Pater Brenneker was a missionary on the island of Curaçao, who I believe, I don't know 100% sure, but I think in the 50s. I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure which years. I do know there's still footage of these 2 people, but he was on the island of Curaçao. Pater Brenneker, he was a Dutchman who really cared about preserving the culture of the people there. And he met Alice Juliana, who was a poet and an artist, and they joined forces and went into villages, went to people's houses to interview people about, to interview elders about what they still know from the past, from the time after slavery was abolished, and they made audio recordings of all these conversations. And in these audio recordings, there's some storytelling, there's some information that people shared, but also a lot of songs, a lot of music. And most of these recordings are very well preserved by the NAM, the archive, the Anthropological and Archaeological Institute on the island, and are open source like database online that you can find and use for your projects, knowing where they come from. And I think that is such important work that they've done that should be really honored. And I think how Vernon is doing that is beautiful. So yeah, but I didn't know this song, and I really liked it. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I see now that the album is actually called Peace, Love and Music, not Jazz. I don't know why I thought it was called Jazz, but I know that Vernon also has an album that has lots of jazz influences. You named this archive, and I think that the importance of this is also something that we experienced when we were in Curaçao, in the Oral History Museum. I forgot the name. Do you?
Museo Kasipali Maishi.
You told me that you always bring people who you meet in Curaçao to the museum.
They, at some point, the people who work there started laughing at me because every time I've been so many. Every time I came with a different person, kind of as an ambassador of the museum.
Yeah. So it was for me the first time actually I was at an oral history museum, and you named the importance of also taking the tour, because actually that was the only way you could actually get the knowledge from the museum, because the museum was actually designed or redesigned as an old Kunuku house, exactly. Kunuku, and these were occupied by enslaved people, and these could live here after they were enslaved to work for the people who owned them.
At that time. The plantation. Who formerly owned the people.
Formerly owned the people. Actually, there's a person over there who guided us through the space, the physical appearance, the people, the places where the people lived, where they ate, how they made the food. And these stories are stories which are not very easily to find anywhere else online, but from the people descending from the islands themselves. So it was very special to me to hear it from somebody who has so much knowledge about it for the first time outside the context of the Netherlands, because within the Netherlands I don't ever meet people who I have these kinds of conversations with, it was very interesting to be in this space. And when we were there, she talked us through also the process of making and harvesting foods with how do you say it? Corn. Corn. Yeah, and there's an audio fragment and sound snippet I want to share where she is singing a song, and I have to look up the name of the song before I'm gonna play it, because it's in Papiamento and I'm not very well in speaking Papiamento.
I think it's
Cantica di Mula Maishi.
Yeah,
Yes.
Cantica di Mula Maishi.
Yeah.
Wasikulaba kiuntalabaya kalimbambeya tobokulaba kiuntalabaya kalimbambeya ha kalimbambeya ha kalimbambe di pilong batia pilong ha mayala pilong ha batia ha batia ha batia ha.
Yeah, the first song is actually a different song. That one is one that was sung while doing laundry. And the second song is indeed the, do you say brick and mortar? I think mortar? Yeah.
Like a big mortar.
Yeah. To make meal,
corn, something with corn.
Yeah.
Food to eat.
Yeah. Corn flour.
Yeah.
To make corn flour out of the corn that was harvested and dried. So what did this song do to you?
Well, first of all, it really reminded me of tambu. Not necessarily the rhythms in it, but the sort of repetition of words and chanting within the song, and it really felt like a song that you would sing together. So sort of more a conversation, and that's something that I hear a lot in Afro-Indigenous songs from Curaçao and Bonaire. And usually for me, the context was missing when I heard the song. So usually these songs I hear in street performances or on CDs, but not necessarily from the context where the song is actually from. And this song was actually from the act of making food. And this song, I think she said that this song was also sung because singing while working made the work go faster, and therefore they also used the speed of the song to make it go more like faster and faster, produce more and faster, and make it fun as well. And the things that they sang in the songs were also a way to express what they were thinking at that moment and how they were feeling.
And I remember there's also, so for the first song there's this story that they told us in the museum that so it has a hidden message, the first song. It's sang while doing laundry, but the women were doing laundry together, and it was kind of a way of exposing another woman who cheated on someone's husband or on her husband, or someone cheated on a person. So it was a way of exposing and holding a person accountable by singing while all doing laundry together. And I think many songs, many Tambu songs as well, they have like a hidden message. They address social political issues or personal issues in a way that is kind of like, well, what you were saying as well, it's kind of playful. It's kind of a way that is not very direct like we do in the Netherlands, you know, but it's more hidden. It's more under the surface, and it's a feeling that is translated through this song. I think there's also a name for it. It's like tirapuña. It's like to throw
shade?
To throw shade. Yeah,
it's like gossiping also, right?
Yeah,
because I
like
think
gossiping.
Also like with Tambu, this practice is mainly done now in Curaçao or in present, usually with New Year's Eve, I think, or around that period.
Yeah, around New Year's.
So it's not something that is done very much around that. And so usually like opinions about each other are sort of saved until that period to sort of at the end of the year express it and make people like, oh, you did this and you did this, and
but also to cleanse your own energy,
exactly,
right? To cleanse
take
your
it
own
off.
Spirit and take it like just throw it out
exactly
there.
Yeah. It's like sort of public shaming, but then not without naming the person who did it, but the person, like, if you know, you know. So they're like, okay, let's not do this again this year.
Yeah, I think that is very beautiful. I actually also, so we were just talking about how the past is always connected with the present, and I think one song that really shows that for me, and also shows how music can also be political somehow, is Tu La Guarda from Doble R, the third song. And let's just play it, and then I'll tell a bit more about it afterwards.
nos caminda si nos mantenemos en ruta. Matung costo por derecha, nos tintinupe. Matung costo lo cambia, nos tintinupe. Tu la guarda no guacainda. Ya conocí algún costi derecha que nos está trabajando duro. La guarda no guacainda.
Ja, dat was Doble R met La Huerta. En ja, waar dit nummer eigenlijk over gaat, het is the song. Now I'm doing it again. I started in Dutch again. I'm so sorry, listeners. So the song is about. It's a message to the leader of the revolt of the enslaved people that happened in 1793 on the island of Curaçao. And yeah, the singer, the band that is playing this song, they are addressing this person in the past. So it's really a conversation between the present and the past, which I think is beautiful. And yeah, some of the lyrics, I found a translation actually online.
Whoa.
Yeah. So what they're saying is, Tula, be patient, don't look yet. We still have some fixing to do. Believe that we are working hard. You taught us how to struggle, how to fight for our self-worth. Look how ironic. Our struggle is no longer against the oppressor. We fight each other, yes, we fight each other, but we can improve through awareness. Everything can change through awareness.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really conversational with the past and also with the future. Yeah.
I like it that we're playing it right now and that we're talking about it.
Can you hear me well?
Not really.
No, I also don't
That's
hear
why I was a bit distracted. I was like,
No, I also don't hear myself now.
oh, I had that too. Wait.
Hello? Test.
Oh, wait. We're gonna ask the studio host.
Yeah.
Hey, can you hear Lecyca's voice?
Nee, ik ga ook even kijken. Volgens mij is er iets. Je hoort je wel, maar het klinkt heel zacht.
Oh, wait.
Deze aan.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Can you try again?
Yeah. Now I can hear myself. I was wondering, did the listeners hear what I just explained? You think?
I didn't really. I heard it from you next to me, but I didn't hear it from my.
Sounds great.
Yeah, now it sounds
Okay.
good. Okay, then I will explain it again.
Okay.
So I was explaining that the previous song is a song Tu la guarda by Doble R, and it's a message to Tula, the leader of the revolt of enslaved people on the island of Curaçao in 1793. And in this song, they are addressing this person in the past, like being a band from now, because Doble R, I think this song was written a few decades ago. And they address this person from the past who has done a lot for the justice of Afro Curaçaoan people. He revolted against the system of slavery. And in the song, I found the translation online. They address Tula and they say, Tula, wait, be patient, don't look yet. We still have some fixing to do. Believe that we are working hard. Tula, you taught us how to struggle, how to fight for our self-worth. Look Look how ironic. Our struggle is no longer against the oppressor. We fight each other. Yes, we fight each other. But everything can improve through awareness. Everything can change through awareness.
I really like it that you actually looked up the translation.
Yeah.
That's so well prepared.
Yeah, well, I remembered that I once found it, and I think it's very nice for our listeners who don't speak any Papiamento, which will probably be the majority, maybe. I don't know.
I actually wonder who is listening.
Yeah,
Like,
who
is
are
there-
listening?
Yeah, is
Let
there
us
anybody in the chat who, if you have anything to say, if you want to join the conversation, feel free to
Yeah.
write something in the chat. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, that
and,
would be so nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think also I have a question for you, Jer. Like, we've been speaking a lot about Curaçao, but your roots are in Bonaire, but you do have a relation with Curaçao. So
Yeah.
could you maybe elaborate a little bit on how your relationship towards Curaçao is and why you feel so much also with that island, and yeah, how was your exploration in the journey you made to Bonaire recently of your cultural heritage?
Thank you so much for the question. I think that first of all, my sister is actually my half sister. So her father is from Curaçao, and my father is from Bonaire. So that's for me already the first link to Curaçao, because we both share the Afro-Caribbean identity. So and Bonaire and Curaçao are actually not that far away from each other. For the people who are listening, they are in the ABC SSS Islands area, which is Aruba, Bonaire, Curaçao, Sint Maarten, Sint Eustatius, and Saba. I don't know if that's also the order, because I know that Aruba, I think it's first Aruba, then Curaçao, and then Bonaire. I don't know for sure actually, but these islands are very much close to each other. So the culture, for me, how I experience it from the perspective of someone living in the Netherlands, I feel there are not that many differences between the cultures. I can't say for sure they are the same, of course, because I haven't really experienced that much from it. But how I experienced it is that I grew up also not with my father, who's from Bonaire, but with a friend of my mother. I used to call her Tante Dita. And yeah, she is the one who was there at my birth as well. And I remember that she used to throw some good parties. Like that was sort of for me the introduction to Curaçao. Like the associations I had with Curaçao was loud music, many people, many aunties kissing you, good food. There was very well taken care of you as a guest.
Yeah.
And many people dancing. I really grew up with dancing at these parties. And my mom, she's Dutch. She loves to dance too. She loves to listen to salsa music, and so she really loves this part of the culture as well. So she also brought elements to my growing up, and I think the sort of thing that I really still like is that Tante Dita gave me a CD as well. I have it here. I actually put the songs on my USB. And it says Champagne for Jermaine, Loco Loco Mita Pabo. And I found this CD again recently, and I played it, and I was like, what is this? What is Champagne? And I found out that the songs were from Gio Fuertissimo. And this was an act or a band founded by Gilbert Doran. And this music is a sort of blend of salsa, merengue, and souk. And this was the music that was playing at these parties. So I listened to this song and I was like, what is this? The last time I heard it was when I was younger and I was at Tante Dita's party. So it felt very sentimental for me to listen to this, because this was sort of this is something that is part of me, like the rhythms and the music and the people dancing, like everything I see coming together is such a beautiful memory for me. So I digitalized the songs, or I put the CD in the computer and I exported them to my USB, and there's like 12 songs on them, and I don't speak Papiamento at all. I know some words, so I'm just gonna pick one, and I'm super curious what it's gonna be, and what they're gonna sing about. But it's really cute. I think that's I'm gonna pick the one that's called Loco Loco, because she also put that on the CD. So that might be a song I really liked when I was younger. I think so.
Let's go. I'm really curious.
There we go.
Maybe we should stand up and dance.
Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Love it.
Very danceable.
Very danceable, ja. En ook verschillende rhythms en vibes. En het had alles.
Everything, yeah.
Love
And
it.
especially it reminded me of, it's a very like, how do you say it? Like, you want to dance, but you also want to slowly dance, you know? It's
Yeah.
very sensual, but also energetic. And yeah, and especially like the lower tones, like they had the huge sound systems as well. The music was loud, so you really felt it in your body. And yeah, it's... and again, this is also, I just said it to you, it's funny how this song is again also we're like a conversation sort of, that people answer, respond to it. You hear the background singers, like, what did you think that they were saying again? I don't...
I think it was like a breakup song.
Breakup song, yeah. Like a breakup song.
No, this is a very good breakup song. Like, if you think of breakup songs, usually in English or in like from North America or something, they're so desperate.
Yeah. That's true. This is more festive, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, celebrate that you broke up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you were asking me also about my experience in Bonaire.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I went to Bonaire because I don't have any contact with my father anymore, and I was like, how does this space actually look like? Where did my father grew up? My grandmother, my grandfather, and my niece inspired me to go there because she sent me a text on Instagram. She found contact with me, Cheyenne Adoptie, and yeah, she invited me over to come by and to meet my uncle, who I also haven't seen for like 20 years. So I came by. I was very scared. I invited my sister to join me, or she was actually, do you want me to join you? And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. I would love that. Maybe also because it can be quite overwhelming to meet people who you haven't seen for so long, and I wanted to know about who I was. So,
And that was here, right?
it was in Hilversum actually. My mom also lives there, so they live there too, which is also quite bizarre that they live so close to where my mom lives.
Yeah.
And then my uncle, I was there with my nephew, or my niece. Did I say nephew? Niece.
No, you said niece.
Yeah, niece.
Cousin.
And they told me that my other uncle still lives there in the house of my grandfather and my grandmother. It's still there in the little town called Rincon. And I learned that my father my grandfather was a DJ as well.
Yeah.
So that was so sick to hear, because my DJ name, Faustin, is a reference to my grandfather, and also my second name, because I'm named after him. He was called Faustino Adoptie. So that was very...
And you didn't know he was a DJ as well. That you just found out, and your DJ name was already Faustin.
Exactly,
right?
yeah. And when I picked a name, it was also like I had sort of this idea of acknowledging my grandfather as well, but sort of a secret hint to it. And but that was just more personal thing. And now that he was actually a DJ as well, it feels so much more special that is my DJ name, and it really feels like I'm embodying sort of him as well, my culture.
And it's so beautiful that it's really synchronized in that way, because you were not aware of these things, and still it came to you somehow.
Yeah, that's really the sick part about traveling to Bonaire. I feel like I am kind of spiritual in some kind of ways, but when I was there, I really felt so much stuff which I've never felt before. I could really be true to my feelings. Like when I was in the town, I felt at home. While I did not speak the language Papiamentu. I mean, many people speak Dutch as well, but that's a way different language than how the people in Rincon speak. It's so different to have a conversation in Dutch than in Papiamentu. If I see people around me speaking Papiamentu, and also that, so that was, I felt really at home. Everybody, when I told like people on the streets, like, yeah, do you know David adoptie. En zei
Your
hij,
uncle, right?
My
You were looking
uncle,
for
yeah.
your uncle, yeah.
and they were like, yeah, David adoptie, and yeah, he's his brother Willem, and I was like, oh, that's my dad Willem, and they, oh, are you Jermaine? I was like, yeah. They knew my name, and that's so weird. People like from 9 hours away who knew you, like that's so surreal. And especially because I was there alone, like I didn't have my father there or anyone, so.
Yeah, your sister also didn't join you to the island, right?
No.
Your sister joined you when you visited your uncle here, but not on the island. So you were all by yourself.
Yeah.
And of course, I've heard the story already before. Like, I see it kind of in my head when you told me about this. I saw it like a film in my head, like you there in the village by yourself, looking for this man, and asking around about this man, and maybe you can share how it went in the end. Did you find him, and how was that encounter?
It was very difficult to me to find him because the houses are like when it gets dark very quickly. They're already at 5:30. And the fun thing is that I had to get home before 6:30 because the road from the sort of bigger town where the fun stuff happens, where the tourists are, where you can swim and dive and eat. There's just 2 places to eat in the town. But the bigger town, the road is sort of haunted. The people in the village say. And I spoke to Alfie. She's from Bonaire and she's the organizer of the Caribbean Ancestry Club. And we work together at the Willem de Koning Academy.
Alfreda.
Alfreda, yes. And I call her Alfie, and we talked, and I told her like, yeah, it's so dark here and there's no lightning. And she was like, oh, but you can't drive that at dark. That's like a sort of haunted road. Yeah. And I actually almost had 2 minor accidents at night when I was driving there.
You did do it.
Yeah, before I knew I couldn't.
Oh, okay.
There was like a dog on the road, jumping on the road. Yeah. And one time every time when I'm super tired and my eyes get watery and I did not have a tissue. Sounds very dramatic, but it was really dark. But so I had to get home before night. And then every time it got dark, I had the opportunity to find my uncle because he was at work always during the day.
Yeah.
But at night it was so dark everywhere, and he had how do you say, like waakhonden, guarding dogs. Mm-hmm. So I think I visited his house like 4 times, and
they were like barking.
Yes.
Because you're a stranger.
Exactly. Yeah. So I felt very intimidated, and I was already a bit scared to meet my uncle. So that was very difficult to meet him. So everybody knew I was looking for him, and I even found out that I have many nephews in the town because we talked, and he said like, yeah, did you find David? And then they later told me that they were my nephews as well, and everybody was trying to help me find my uncle.
And it's funny because at some point he must have known as well that you were looking for him.
Yeah. Because
it's a village. News spreads quite easily. So
yeah.
You were looking for him and he knew that you were looking for him. So it's kind of, it's a movie.
Yeah, it really felt like I was a main character in a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so it took me a long time before I met my uncle. It was only until before the last day he was home.
Yeah.
And I screamed David because I was scared for the dogs.
And you saw him, so you were standing outside and you saw him inside the house.
No, I was just screaming until...
You were just screaming because it was your last chance to see him before going to Curaçao, where you went after.
Exactly. And then I found out that he wasn't responding. Then I found out that the dogs were tied to the thing. And I learned that there is another way you could enter his house where there were no dogs. But and then I found that, I just walked there. I've met his neighbors as well. I know his neighbors better than him, actually, because I've seen them many times. And then they told me, you can also try the other side. I was like, oh, okay, there's no dogs over there. And then I knocked there, and then he opened the door. And he was actually very happy to see me. I was scared for nothing, actually. He took me in, and we talked about my grandfather. his name was actually Bubu Adoptie as a DJ, and my grandmother was called Yaya Adoptie, and he showed me all his CDs, which he used to play.
Which your grandfather used to play.
Yeah, and that was very special because many of these CDs are black artists, not necessarily Curaçaoan or Bonairean artists. So he was playing the music I played, elements from that like salsa, merengue, much music from Cuba, which all is influenced by each other. So that's nice to see sort of the connecting things in his music. That much music that is being listened to there is actually from there as well, around these areas in the Caribbean. And I think the fun thing is also that before I met my uncle, I passed a snack bar, where there was a group of musicians making music, and there were these tourists photographing and filming them, and I saw this drum, which I'm looking for in the Netherlands as well. It's called the bari or tamboet drum. And the only place where I've seen it is in the Wereldmuseum, the original one, the one on the pictures, from before, because there's many new ones being built right now.
Yeah.
But the original drums, I've never seen it, but in the Wereldmuseum, you could press a button and then they would play a soundscape. So I was like, oh my God, I would love to play that instrument with them, especially. And I was too scared to ask to do that, so I was just sort of standing from beside looking, and then he saw me looking and he asked me if I wanted to join, and that was a super sick experience because he told me that he was a friend of my father as well. He used to DJ together.
Oh.
So and the fun thing about this experience is that I didn't know how to play the drum. I had the tambour class, and we were actually performing for the
tourists.
For the tourists, I was performing for the tourists,
wow.
And it was so weird because I didn't know how to play, but I did it, and it went actually very well. I was just playing.
Yeah,
you don't have to know.
It's kind of this intuitive.
Yeah, and
response.
Yeah, it was really felt like we were making music together, and that was so special because it was really felt like a sort of full circle moment where I was making music with people from my village, and I actually have a snippet from it.
Yeah, let's listen.
Yeah.
I'm really curious.
It's.
Shall I?
Oh yeah, you can play it there. Yeah. Yeah, that was really nice. And the song is actually it's a song for the harvest season. Seyu it's called, and the song is about asking it to rain, I think, or being happy that it rains. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's thanking the elements for what they contributed to the harvest.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really beautiful experience, and you've been looking for this, right? Looking for these rhythms that are from there. But what you're saying about how the music is also regionally very connected to different islands, to the Latin American continent. I think that's beautiful that all came together in your grandfather's suitcase of CDs.
Yeah, it was felt really special to experience it in real life, and it still feels like a dream sometimes.
Yeah, I can
Being
imagine.
back in the Netherlands. Yeah, how did you experience going to Curaçao? Because you've been there quite a lot.
Yeah, yeah. So it's funny. Like we also talked about like the process of reconnecting with cultural heritage, because I think in the Netherlands we all grow up in a culture in which you just try to adjust to the norm, and especially growing up in Groningen, I always felt like I had to hide certain parts of myself, and while I was still very curious about that, and I really identified with the culture that I also grew up with at home, like in closed doors that was not really visible for the outside world. So I did not grow up with tamboe, for example, and also it's funny because when I went to Curaçao recently, I really wanted to learn more about tamboe and dance tamboe, but it's also a taboo somehow. It's not only a music genre, but the dance, the tamboe parties, they were forbidden until the 50s, I think, around the 50s. It was forbidden to publicly play tamboe because it originated during the period of slavery. And so there were so many forces really trying to erase and oppress these cultural elements. And I think that is something I also felt in my household, which was also kind of like, not my father was always very much like, yeah, explore your own culture, but the extended family was also kind of judging the fact that I was interested in tamboe. So as a child, when I went to Curaçao, we went quite often, but for me it was first just a family reconnecting with family travel. And then in 2020, I went and I stayed for almost a year because of the pandemic. So that was also a period in which there was almost no tourism, which was amazing. Like, it was amazing to be there without
once in a lifetime.
But it was a very tough time as well, of course, because economically seen, the island gets much of their income from tourism. So it was a very tough period for many people. But yeah, for me, I had like the opportunity, the privilege to be there and to do kind of research for myself and for the film that we just talked about, Ga terug en haal het, on cultural heritage. And yeah, that was a journey. I think it's reconnecting with these aspects is kind of like a lifelong process for me. It's something that goes through the mind, but also through the body and through the spirit. It's so multifaceted, and it's all interconnected with each other. And it's really something that needs time, and that's kind of a roller coaster, because it's also very painful to know that you're not, or to feel that you didn't grow up with certain aspects of your culture. Or of the culture that your parents have. And I think I went through, in the first period, I was kind of really focusing on this colonialism aspect and of, this is what was done to the people on the island. This is what is done to the indigenous population. There was a genocide. And I think that is a very painful process to go through, to realize like, wow, there was so much suffering in this. And I think at some point for me, I also started realizing or looking at the resilience that is in the people and the land and the spirits and all the practices that are there, and how they, even though all these forces were kind of trying to erase it because it was a colony, there's still so much that still lives now. And that for me is really really soothing realization, and knowing that, yeah, there's so much wisdom in the land itself. Also, how you're talking about these synchronicities in your story, I'm like, yeah, of course, that's what the islands do for the people who are here on this continent. You know, that's what really, it feels like it's somehow orchestrated for us. Maybe I sound a little bit woo now, but I think it's. I really feel that. Like, as soon as the airplane touches down, I feel a different energy. I feel like everything is. I don't know. I feel like I there's something that happens within me, and it's difficult to explain it. But these experiences that you share also kind of show that feeling for me that I can really relate to.
I love to hear that. That makes I feel like that makes the islands even more special. That we share this feeling, even though they might be different islands. That I also sometimes feel it is because of it is an island, and it feels like time is passing by on a different way.
Yeah,
over there. It's so.
I think it's so funny. And like we were sharing a house, right, when we were there 2-3 months ago. I think it's so funny because I think we both have we are really good in planning or imagining how we want things to go. And I think the island showed us so many times during that trip, no, you are not in charge. You are not in charge. But literally, like the hikes that you wanted to do, the plans that I had. I really feel like I need to switch my energy and adjust to not having everything calculated. And
your dad really learned that to me as well.
Yeah, what did he teach you?
I think we were both kind of stressing out. We went to Carnival, and we went to your uncle's house, and it was starting the parades. You know, it's always like you don't want to. You need the spot to be there on time, but also. Always we were there, it didn't start yet. We had to wait like hours before it started. But there was a bit of like, oh yeah, we need to go now, you know? Like I had that feeling because I was like, yeah, we're going. Yeah. And we were walking, I was walking very fast. I was looking behind me and I saw you like walking, like taking your time. And I was like, we need to go. And I was like, okay, chill down. And I talked to your dad and I said like, yeah, I love it. Now we're walking on this space. I actually really like it. Like I have nowhere to go. And he said like, yeah, when you walk this space, like it takes much less energy and to get at your endpoint, and it's much more fun to go somewhere when you just take the time to do it. And I was like, whoa, that's so true. I was really in the moment. And that also sounds a bit woo. But
Wow, I have such a good bridge now to a song.
Share it.
So at some point I was really fascinated. Like I can sometimes be really fascinated by a certain cultural element. And I was really fascinated about this concept of poco poco. I made it a concept. It's just a saying, you know, like by poco poco is to go, to take care while you're doing something, to go slow, to be safe. It's something that my aunties tell me when I leave the house, by poco poco, or when I'm trying to be too rushed. It's like by poco poco. And this song is also from Double E, and it's called Poco Poco. It's the first one.
Bon, I'm gonna set it up. There's so much to learn from Papiamentu language, like so many moods and experiences I have that there is like a definition for in Papiamentu.
Yeah, but also with that by Poco Poco.
The first one?
Poco, poco, move sosega, vino di Poco poco, poco poco, poco poco, poco poco.
Esta noche pa' bailar,
Poco poco,
mi sabroso merengue.
poco poco,
Movemos cintura,
poco poco,
baila mi merengue.
poco poco,
Abraza mi sí, pero
poco poco,
tené mi sí, pero
poco poco,
estoy aquí, estoy allá, pero
poco poco,
baila aquí, baila allá, pero
poco poco,
poco a poco luego llega,
poco poco,
poco a poco no te llega. Ay,
Poco, poco.
1, 2, lecyca,
Poco, poco.
lecyca. 1, 2,
Poco, poco.
1, 2, lecyca,
Poco, poco.
lecyca. 1, 2, mi Dios, no te impura, no te impura, no te impura, van sosega, seguimos pero sosega, soy ayanga pero sosega, seguimos pero sosega, soy ayanga pero sosega, no te impura, no te impura, no te impura, van sosega, seguimos pero sosega, soy ayanga pero sosega, seguimos pero sosega, soy ayanga pero sosega.
Andiamo poi, vai poco poco, pero con seguro.
Esta noche pa' bailar,
Poco poco,
mi sabroso merengue,
Poco, poco.
movemos cintura,
Poco, poco.
soy a mi merengue,
Poco, poco.
abraza mi sí, pero
Poco, poco.
tené mi sí, pero
Poco, poco.
estoy aquí, estoy allá, pero
Poco, poco.
baila aquí, baila allá, pero
Poco, poco.
bailate así mi loco,
Poco, poco.
vas allá, este mi loco. Ay,
poco.
1, 2, lecyca, lecyca. 1, 2, 1, 2, lecyca, lecyca. 1, 2, mi Dios, no te impura, no te impura, no te impura, van sosega, seguimos pero sosega, soy ayanga pero sosega, seguimos pero sosega, soy ayanga pero sosega, no te impura, no te impura, no te impura, van sosega, seguimos pero sosega, soy ayanga pero sosega, seguimos pero sosega, soy ayanga pero sosega, a ver.
Ay, asina, asina.
Va poco a poco, poco a poco, mueve sosega, vino tempura chango. Va poco a poco, vaya poco a poco, vino tempura.
Test. Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna remind myself of this track, especially now that I'm in the Netherlands again. I really have to remind myself Poco Poco.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
you can
it's
so
integrated.
easy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's definitely something I'm gonna take with me from
Let's
Korean
hold each other
culture.
accountable.
Yes. Let's do that. Yeah.
So, this radio show is called Criollo, right?
Yeah. Yes.
But
yeah.
it's written in this like interesting way, which I have many questions about. Yeah, so can you tell a bit more about why you chose this name for this radio show?
Yeah, criollo. I think it has several meanings in different cultures and languages. That's something that really interests me. So that how the context influences the meaning of the word, while it still has similarities. So in Papiamento, you have the word criollo. You write it with a K and a Y. And I learned that many spaces where you can eat in Bonaire, there the food is called criollo food. And yeah, it's actually traditional Curaçao and Bonairean foods with influences from Africa, but also much American kitchen traditions are like blended with that, as well as Portuguese. So actually all the cultures that have stepped foot on the island have made some kind of impact on the culture, of course. And that's how
Chinese as well.
Chinese as well, yes. We should not forget about that. There's many like snack
Satay
bars.
ku batata.
Exactly, yes. We just ate that, right? Or
No, that's like pisang goreng.
sorry.
No, satay ku batata is like satay with potatoes.
oh, okay.
Yeah, but satay is Chinese. So.
Okay. Sorry. Very bad with names, but
No, it's fine. It's fine.
but yes, exactly. And the food is called like that, but also the language Papiamento is a Creole language.
Yeah.
So it's Portuguese, Dutch. Yeah, it has influences from from the African diaspora as well. And what I really like about that is that there is not sort of something to pin down on. This is where the culture is coming from. This is what it is. It's not static. It's like an organic thing that is adjusting to the context and through time. And yeah, I think that what I like about that is that also when thinking about the future, which we had conversations about, that I wonder how I would redefine myself and take parts of the cultures that I identify with to make it my own. So I have Bonairean descent, I have Dutch descent, but in both cultures I do not feel completely at home. I always feel that I'm both, but also that sometimes I feel that I'm actually none of them.
Yeah.
But I am still them both. But I'm more than just those two cultures as well. And yeah, I think that it's interesting to think about how we all are constantly actually, like, as I said in the description as well, exploring cultures, how we redefine it by means of our own contexts and experiences and values, and therefore make it our own. And that's also why I named, redefined the criollo into something else. I wrote it differently, so it's not actually criollo, but it's my own criollo. And I also want to invite others to think about what it means to them, and what it means to you. What are your associations with the word criollo?
I think I now understand it better. Maybe it's kind of like creolizing ourselves, because we are creolized in the end. We are so many things coming together.
Yeah.
So I know the word criollo or creole from many different concepts. I think it's something that that is reflected in many places in the Black Atlantic. So this triangle in which the transatlantic slavery took place. So in Cabo Verde, you have Criollo, also Creole language, which also kind of was traveled to Curaçao, which I recently found out in the Museo de Tambu. They have like a very nice section about how Papiamento is kind of a language that also traveled, like the language that maybe I'm going off topic now. It was about me. But now Papiamento is also a creolized language, right? It's like coming from different places and so many languages mixed. And in this museum, they spoke about a research of the writer Frank Martinez Arion, who did research on how the Creole from Cabo Verde is kind of like also related to Papiamento, and people from Cape Verde also traveled during slavery, traveled to Curaçao and Bonaire and Aruba and brought their language there. So that's also connected. And where did I want to go? Like, so language is kind of also all influence each other. And I think when it comes to my own, because your question was like, how is that for me personally, identity-wise, right?
Yeah, I wanted to know more about your associations with the concept of criollo.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So that is one of my associations, language. Also, criollo is for me something very local and very specific to Curaçao, or to not only to Curaçao but to the islands, also in Bonaire. But it's something that is there for me somehow in my mind. It's like criollo. I cannot say that I'm criollo because I grew up in Groningen. Zeg maar, Groningen is not criollo. So I think it's very interesting how you approach it, because of course, creolization is this concept of cultures mixing together from a social science point of view / perspective. So if these cultures in creolization, or if these cultural elements creolize and something new exists, then identities can also creolize, right? And something new can be created. So we don't have to what is the word? We don't have to kind of accept or settle for the basic identities we have now, like Yuri Corsao or not Yuri Corsao. And I think, I think that in essence is already a very multiplicit identity to have. And yeah, in terms of criollo and creolization, I think you're really offering me a new way of looking at it and seeing it more like seeing it travel, like any cultural element kind of does. And we are kind of the guardians of that as well, right? Like of representing our culture and representing this big cultural heritage, this rich cultural heritage that is there. I think it's very beautiful that you're doing that here as well in your radio show.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that, and I'm also appreciated to talk to you about it, because what I found difficult with this sort of journey of redefining your identity is also that it can be difficult to explore that on your own, because it does feel good to make a safe space for your own, where you feel like this is who I am. But I found out that for me that is not really possible. Even with the show I did before I was playing these sets, and I was like, yeah, this is my envisioned space of belonging. And it was nice to be in that space while playing the set, but afterwards I was like, what is this?
Who are you sharing it with? Who are the people actually listening?
Exactly. And a conversation feels so much more a collective effort of and feels way more realistic also. Yeah,
and I think there are so many amazing spaces created here in the Netherlands as well. For us, for the people from the diaspora, like you mentioned Caribbean Ancestry Club by Alfrida and now I forgot.
Her partner, I forgot his name too.
Sorry, I'm so Gaudi. Alfrida and Gaudi. Who are providing this amazing space in which we can come together and share our art and our stories. Six Island Scene, shout out to them as well, who are providing a platform for people to share their stories and reflect on our culture, being from the ABC SSS Islands. Nos Kunos, shout out to them as well.
Big shout out.
Big shout out.
Especially because they also make space for not only social, like cultural identities, but also other intersecting social identities.
Yeah, but all
like
three
gender.
of them. Yeah, I think that is really something of our generation. Yeah. They are really aware of how this is something intersectional
exactly,
as well.
like
sorry
queer
for interrupting.
identities.
I just didn't want to do injustice to the other two.
Queerness is something that for me is something very difficult to explore in the context of these islands as well. That's something that I always feel like sometimes I feel like, I feel at home, but something is missing. Like I have to code switch into something constantly. And that's also something that is, how I would redefine my cultural heritage into like a new paradigm where queer people are also, can be themselves.
It's really beautiful.
Yeah, and And yeah, as you said, all three collectives really work towards making it a space for identities that are outside the BIPOC Afro-Caribbean
that are providing a space to these BIPOC Afro-Caribbean queer identities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what a time to be alive, right?
Yeah,
this is actually happening, and I think we're living in such a special period in which we can explore many different versions of ourselves and express ourselves freely while carrying on this cultural legacy building on this cultural legacy that we have.
It's I'm very happy to be who I am. I'm proud to be Black, Bonairean, queer, and I think it really is because of these people that they exist and that they create a space to be together. And and maybe to add to this, I wonder, is there anything that you envision for our generation, or maybe even the next generation, because you're saying that it's already quite special what we have right now. Is there something that you would want to wish for the next generations, or maybe even for us in the future?
Ooh, good question. I think what for me is important is that no one I hope that no one will ever, growing up in the Netherlands or in any other country, feel like they need to be something else than they actually are in order to fit in the social context that they were born in. And I hope that will be solved, because I'm not hopeful that society will change anytime soon. Here we see many changes, but I think with apologies for slavery, for example, I feel everything is so symbolic that it really has to come from within. And I hope that from within we can go through these processes of reconnecting with each other and with our culture, with our roots, and with our roots like forward and backward, like with our roots in the past, but also with what we envision for ourselves in the future, that next generations just have a strong foundation in who they are, or what their legacy is culturally. That we don't have to search anymore, because so much is a search nowadays, and just that we can arrive in where we are. And
Complimento. I looked it up once.
No stay. We have arrived. I hope that as the diaspora as well, we can arrive. And speaking of diaspora, I also hope that we can de-essentialize this idea, this concept of being a diaspora. Thinking about my father, he chose to come here to study. He stayed. Now he wants to go back. So is he then still diaspora? He's really working hard on going back. But he did change. He's a different man than he would be when he would stay there. So I think, I think opening this definition of what it means to be from the islands, and being connected with every way of being from the island, with every version, with every person who has their own story, and really listening to each other, really having dialogue, not living on our own little islands, but really being in dialogue with each other and making space for one another. I think that is my vision, and very concretely, I would love to have like an exchange somehow of people going there and people going here and spending time here and really exchanging stories and knowledge. So that is what we're working on right now.
Okay, that sounds sick. No, I totally hear what you're saying. I think that all these things, what I like about it are things that actually can already happen now, right? Yeah. They're not sort of that far away in the future.
No.
So I think that we can also see it as a manifestation, and I believe that will happen. Yeah, I believe in that. Yeah.
What about you? What is your future vision?
I really resonate with many things you're saying, especially the making space for each other. What I also really really would love to explore is to stop. This is quite futuristic, but to stop looking at people based on their ethnicity. Like that is something that I'm trying myself sort of to stop making myself prejudices from, or like not prejudices, like not that they're necessarily like negative, but that I see someone who has skin color like me, I already have a very nice feeling, like, oh, I feel there's so many who looks like me, which is very nice.
Yeah.
But also I don't know this person, so why do I feel like that? That's something that I'm questioning myself. So how we can be together without looking at each other as racialized bodies. That's something that I would envision, another way of looking more in depth in who people really are. But that's everybody looks at their parents, of course, like that's what we do all the time. So, but I think that's for me an interesting thing.
So a future of non-racialism.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. That's, I love that. Yeah.
Do you think if you look at society, how many years would you kidding? No, but I don't know. So we both took the course, the Anthropologies of the Black Atlantic, and there were many conversations about non-racialism.
Yes.
Right? I remember that, and I remember being very intrigued by the idea, but also being a bit like, there's still so much to be done in society.
This is like
so much inequality to solve.
It's a big project.
It's a big project.
Yeah, but to make it an ambitious vision, I would say that.
Yeah.
But everything you said, I really resonate with that, and that's definitely something I would love to work on as a collaborative effort.
Nice. And rhythmic visions. Shall we go back to the rhythms?
Yes, that's a nice bridge.
Nice
as
to
well.
close off.
Yeah, we're almost 3 more minutes.
Yeah.
I think we can share one more track. Maybe one more from the CD I got from Tante Dita as a sort of festive ending track.
I love that CD.
Would you like to pick one? I feel
that's a good one. Laga Tempo di CD.
Yes.
Let Time Decide.
Oh, Let Time Decide. That's a nice one. I'm gonna skip it a bit because it's quite long. And there we go.
Laga tempo decidi para não estar junto, estou feliz. Se for ajudar, nos ajusta. Se for ajudar, nos estima. Laga tempo decidi para não estar junto. Laga tempo também, mas dinheiro bota querer. Laga tempo decidi para não estar junto. Se for ajudar, nos ajusta.
so much for listening, everybody, to the first episode. And thank you so much, Lacey, for joining me. I really enjoyed this. It was really nice to have you here. I will continue this show next month one more time. Or not one more time, many times, hopefully. And ciao. Good night.